The movie opens in an abandoned factory where a violent fight appears to be underway and several gunshots and loud noises are heard. Then, in a shocking turn of events, a massive explosion occurs in the building, blasting a gaping hole through the walls. Elsewhere, we see a 14-year-old kid named Elijah who has just been suspended from school after he picked a fight with another kid. A teacher contacts Elijah's father about this, after which the boy leaves the school and soon visits his mother's tomb. He then enters an abandoned factory where he often visits to collect junk to sell to recycling centers. However, this time he is horrified to see more than a dozen corpses inside. These corpses are wearing strange armor and have box-shaped rifles hanging from their bodies. Just as Elijah picks up a weapon to examine, it suddenly activates, and one of the corpses moves, sending Elijah into a panic as he runs out of the building. Upon arriving home, Elijah is harshly scolded by his father Hal for getting suspended, so the boy reveals how the other kid was talking badly about his mom. Hal then informs him that his older brother Jimmy is returning home from prison and warns Elijah not to hang out with him too much. In the evening, Jimmy returns home after 6 years in prison and thanks his dad for letting him stay, assuring him it's just for a few weeks. They all have dinner together, during which Jimmy asks Hal if he can hook him up with a job at his workplace, but Hal refuses to vouch for a convict. They begin arguing with each other, after which Jimmy storms out and goes to meet a mobster named Taylor and his brother, Dutch. It turns out that Taylor had provided him protection in prison, for which Jimmy must now pay $60,000. However, he doesn't have that kind of money, so Taylor threatens to kill him and even his family if he doesn't come up with it. Elsewhere, Elijah dreams about the figures from the abandoned factory, so he returns to the same building where he is stunned to see that the corpses have disappeared. However, he finds the high-tech rifle and decides to take it with him. When Elijah returns home, he hears Jimmy asking their dad for $60,000, but Hal refuses to give that kind of money. Jimmy tells him about the safe in Hal's office, which contains the public fund, but the old man refuses to steal. They begin arguing, during which Jimmy accuses his dad of neglecting him while adopting a replacement kid, implying Elijah. Later, Hal goes to check on Elijah's room, where he is shocked to find all the metal scraps that the boy had stolen. This makes him furious, so he scolds his son and tells him to do the right thing by returning it. They head to the construction site, and on the way, Elijah asks him about being the replacement kid, but Hal assures him that he's no one's replacement and says how he loves him more than anything and wants to give him the best life. On the way, they pass by Hal's office, but he is shocked to see that someone has broken the lock. He asks Elijah to stay in the car and heads inside, where he is horrified to find Jimmy stealing money from the safe in the presence of Taylor and his goons. Jimmy begs his dad to leave, but when Hal refuses and tries to stop them, Taylor reacts by shooting him to death. An enraged Jimmy starts a brutal brawl, during which he snatches a gun and shoots Dutch. The man soon collapses and bleeds to death, leaving Taylor devastated, so a panicked Jimmy runs out with the money. Outside, Elijah is clueless about everything since he was listening to music, so Jimmy approaches him and suggests they should leave, saying their dad is busy with some work. Elijah also doesn't suspect anything, and they return home, where Jimmy suggests that they go on a road trip to Lake Tahoe. He claims their dad will also join them after a few days, and even though Elijah is a bit skeptical at first, he doesn't want to miss out on an adventure and agrees. He then rushes to pack his stuff and even puts the high-tech rifle in his bag. Shortly after they leave, Taylor and his men arrive seeking revenge, but the place is already deserted. Elsewhere in the abandoned factory, a mysterious light reactivates and two armored figures appear, each wielding a high-tech device which they use to scan the building. In this way, they find traces of the weapon that Elijah took and decide to go and retrieve it. Sometime later, the brothers arrive at a small motel where they spend the night. The next morning, Elijah leaves a message for his dad on the phone, telling him that he misses him and that he will see him soon at Lake Tahoe. Unfortunately, the message is overheard by Taylor, who has taken Hal's phone, so he now decides to travel there with his goons. Elsewhere, we see the two brothers continue their journey and form a strong bond, during which Jimmy teaches Elijah to drive and gives some life advice. In the evening, they arrive at a club where they see a stripper named Millie, and Jimmy invites her to drink with them. She agrees, and Jimmy spends a lot of the money on alcohol and throwing it at women. Millie then hits it off with Elijah and worries about what a kid is doing in such a place. Later, she returns on stage, during which a drunk Jimmy tries to climb onto the stage to dance with her, but the owner, Lee, thinks he is causing trouble and orders his men to drag him away. When Jimmy still refuses to back off, they all begin brutally beating him up, which deeply worries Elijah. With no other choice, Elijah takes out the high-tech rifle and points it at the men, demanding that they let go of his brother. The men don't take him seriously and assume it's a toy, so Elijah fires a shot, which causes a huge explosion, smashing a pool table. This finally scares Lee and his men, so they let the brothers leave, and Millie also seizes the opportunity to drive away with them. After driving for a while, they stop in the middle of nowhere, where Jimmy is amazed by the weapon and decides to test it, but as he touches it, the rifle closes, revealing that only Elijah can use it for some reason. So Jimmy asks Elijah to fire a few shots, and the boy does, which impresses both Jimmy and Millie. Later, Jimmy asks Millie why she came with them, to which she responds that she was exploited by Lee, who wouldn't let her leave, so she saw this as her chance. Jimmy then suddenly recalls that he forgot his bag full of money at the club, so Millie offers to help him recover it in exchange for her share of the loot. Later, they check into a motel, where Millie chats with Elijah and notices a scar on his hand. He reveals it was given to him by his original parents, who were probably abusive, but he doesn't recall much, as he was just a baby. Sometime later, Millie brings them in front of a casino that turns out to be owned by Lee, so the brothers arm themselves and head inside to retrieve the money. They soon find Lee with several other men and demand their money back while pointing the high-tech rifle. Lee, who had already seen the weapon's power, gets scared and returns all the money. As the brothers try to leave, the men try to shoot them, so Elijah fires the rifle and causes an explosion before finally escaping. Meanwhile, we see the armored figures again, who receive an alert that the weapon is being used, and thanks to that, they track its location. When they arrive at the club, they use a device to recreate what Elijah had done, then get on a motorcycle and head in the same direction the three had taken. Following this, the brothers, along with Millie, go to Las Vegas, where they check into a fancy hotel and have fun. Later, Millie and Elijah are in the lobby when a news report comes on TV about Hal's death. The main suspects are the sons, Jimmy and Elijah, who ran away with the money, and because of Jimmy's criminal background, things become worse. Elijah is horrified by all this, as he had no idea his dad was dead, so he rushes to confront his brother. He accuses Jimmy of killing their dad, while Jimmy tries to calm him down. Unfortunately, this catches the attention of the police, who immediately arrest the brothers and take them away while Millie watches in shock. Later, they arrive at the police station where Jimmy is put behind bars, while Elijah is spared as he is a minor and wasn't involved in the killing. Here, Jimmy finally confesses the truth about what happened to their dad, while Elijah is completely broken inside. The scene then cuts to Taylor, who also learns that Jimmy has been arrested, so he prepares his men to go to the police station so he can get revenge. Sometime later, the mobsters finally arrive at the police station, where they immediately begin attacking the officers. Because it is a small station in a rural town, the police cannot contain the attackers and end up getting injured or killed. During this, Elijah comes across an injured officer and begs him to give his weapon back, which is the only thing that can handle these mobsters. The officer reveals it is in the evidence room and gives him the keys, after which Elijah rushes there. Meanwhile, the mobsters arrive at Jimmy's cell, after which they drag him away from there and proceed to brutally beat him up. Taylor then goes to find Elijah, as he wants to kill him as well, but as he is away, gunshots are being fired from the outside and it turns out the FBI has arrived to stop them. Regardless, the goons aren't scared and begin firing back, but moments later, Elijah finally shows up with the high-tech weapon and begins shooting. The two brothers manage to take down all the goons, while the explosion destroys the section of the building, which is also seen by the FBI unit outside. Following this, Jimmy and Elijah try to escape the police station, but they are stopped by the FBI, who order them to lower their weapons. The brothers oblige, and during this, Jimmy apologizes to Elijah for everything that happened and says he shouldn't have gone through any of this. Just then, Taylor finally returns and points his gun at Jimmy, but in the nick of time, the armored figures who show up on their motorbikes do, and the officers' shots don't affect them. They throw a grenade at the station, which causes a huge tremor. Moments later, Elijah notices everything around him is frozen, and only he can move normally. He sees the two figures, so he quickly grabs the rifle and tries to defend himself. But at that moment, they remove their masks, revealing a man and a woman. The man says they are not here to hurt him, and tells Elijah he is also one of their people. He shows his scar, which looks like Elijah's, and reveals how they come from another world that is currently at war, so Elijah was sent here for his safety. He also explains that the corpses in the abandoned factory were there to kill Elijah, so he had to eliminate them, which Elijah was never supposed to see. He says that when the time comes, Elijah will return to his own world, but for now, he has to stay here. Upon hearing all this, a stunned Elijah finally hands over the high-tech rifle and worries about his brother, who is about to get shot, so the woman changes the direction of the bullet, redirecting it back toward Taylor instead of Jimmy. After that, the two people say their goodbyes to Elijah, and as the man shakes Elijah's hand, a red symbol appears on his palm. As they leave, everything resumes to normal, after which Taylor is struck by the redirected bullet and immediately dies. Meanwhile, Jimmy ends up being arrested by the police, and he takes responsibility for everything that happened while sparing his brother. Elijah is then approached by an FBI officer, who asks about the high-tech weapon, but the boy pretends to have no idea about it, prompting her to leave. Elijah watches as Jimmy is put into the police car, and the brothers exchange a knowing smile through the window. At this moment, Millie arrives at the scene and waves at Elijah as the movie comes to an end. Subscribe for more, hit like, and let me know what you think in the comments.